Wow, that intro was quicker than I expected for some reason. I was
The baseball one's shorter than the other
yeah,
shows.
I was busy trying to post here, but anyways, welcome back to the Super Regionals edition of Kings on Deck. We went on a day sooner than typical. I know Vish, you got a flight to catch tomorrow morning, so we got a lot to cover, and I felt like kind of doing it today right after the game, or at least semi quasi after the game, was I think a good thing to kind of go over a couple things, recap the super regionals a little bit, talk about what's next, and a few other a few other things such as transfer portal, recruiting news, and things of that nature. But before we even get to any of that, first and foremost, I wanted to thank you, Vish, for busting your ass out there for the past couple of weeks, chasing the team around in regionals over in Southern Miss and Hattiesburg, where it's basically in the middle of nowhere to try to get to, and then getting over to Louisville and covering the team over there as well. So, big shout out to you, man. Great job of covering the team. I'll be honest with you guys, man. I don't know anybody that does it better than my guy Vish and us here at Kings on Deck. I think if you know anything about us, myself and Vish have been true fans of this baseball program for, oh God, I want to say about 30 years now. 30 years and counting, more almost.
For me, since my family moved to Miami,
So what, you've been here, what, 30, 40 years now as well. So I mean, look, listen, guys, this is, believe it or not, actually, Vish, now that I think about it, I was more involved with Kings baseball, and I fell in love with Kings baseball before Kings football. That's how, well, coming from my background, obviously playing college ball as well, playing high school ball, growing up playing ball, it was kind of like first love. Anyways, but as I get emotional talking about baseball, this is a team that, God, man, how many roller coaster rides did we go on this year? From the beginning of the season, hey, we've got some opportunity, we've got some talent, we've got some arms now. Our starting pitching is going to be legit. And then going from that to, listen, is JD going to stay around much longer? And I'll be the first one, right? We all talked about it. We all talked about it.
we all did, and we're gonna address that.
We addressed everything, right?
No, but we're gonna talk through some of that.
Hold on a second. This team is going on a roll. They look like what we thought they were going to look like. JD made some adjustments. That team just bought into everything. They fell in love with the program. You could tell the difference in the players. You could tell the difference in the atmosphere around the program. And then they went through, again, another down. And then they went through another up. So it's been legitimate peaks and valleys, legitimate roller coaster ride with this team. And I got to say, man, I got to hand it to them for what they've done this season and how they've been able to battle. Even going through all those things. Big shout out to the Kings program, man. Great job, guys.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Jackson Cleveland's mom, who's become very close. I watch all the games with her and her family. So, yeah, as Jazz gets emotional, I was sitting in that press conference with Whale breaking down. That was tough. Talked to him after a little bit. Yeah, I mean, you become close with this team, and the character that we question the ups and downs. The character of the team was never in question, and yeah. It's tough, man. It's tough to see it end, and that's the thing, man. Baseball, everyone's going to lose the last game of one team, and I see people doing this fine, and we all do it. We all do it, right? We're like, oh, just one more play, because baseball is that one play game, and it's a game of failure, which actually Jackson talks to us about a lot. It's a game of failure, and you got to be comfortable with that. And so you look back over not just this game, but the season, like, man, it's one play could have been here. And I know people want to, and we're going to talk about the game today, obviously, as well, but people want to look at one play and say, oh, if we had done this, if we'd done that. That's just baseball. There's 100 plays like that. And
baseball's a game of inches, folks. It's a game of inches. As
and it really was today. It really was.
Think about the foul ball that was called on Mikey Torres that ended up turning around that the whole game yesterday, right? Think about those type of things, right? I mean, think about that double play that we didn't execute yesterday, but they did execute today. I mean, just all those things.
I mean, the tap back to the pitcher, same play, different execution on it. Switches 2 games. I mean, that's
unbelievable. It's unbelievable. We'll and by the way, this emotion is more of not because we lost, it's more because I've been on both sides. I've been on the losing end, I've been on the winning end. I've won a state title. I've been I've been on that end where you win. You're at the pinnacle of your sport, of your division, of your league, of whether it's high schools or pro or college. And then I've also lost in that title game. So it's like it's the ups and downs. You see it, right? We talked to Will about it this past week. Will Smith. We'll talk about him because he's an absolute he's a monster. But we talked about how his emotions take over when he's on the mound. And you notice when he gets off the mound, I noticed it today when he's walking into the dugout and then he walks directly to the back, like he said. He says, like, after the inning is over, I always go to the back and I throw up. And I was like, look at Will. He's walking to the back to go throw up. And it's like unbelievable that now you see everything play out and you're like, these are real people. These are real kids doing the best that they can.
Exactly. Yeah,
It's
these are not just, it's not just a team for us, right? We're close to the players and the families, so it's hard when it ends. And JD talked about this eloquently because obviously he's been there. It's like it's over quick.
Oh yeah.
We're one pitch away from like going to Omaha together, and it's like this team's going to disperse and they're never going to get back together again. And that's that's what makes these days tough. But that is baseball and that is sports, and that's why we care about it, and that's why we're emotional about it. And days like today, it sucks. But you wouldn't trade it. So
no, not at all, not at all. Speaking of today, as we all know by now, if you don't, again, you're stuck under a rock somewhere. But the Kings dropped the third game, Game 3 of the Super Regionals against Louisville by a score of 3-2. Louisville advances to the College World Series, and Miami season is over as of today. But a couple of things again that I wanted to kind of go over in today's game is, first of all, how hard that team fought today to stay in a game against, quite frankly, if you don't know that Louisville team and you just look at the lineup and you see that they're all hitting, like I think you mentioned it to me, Vish, they're all hitting over 300 for the most part. I think there might be one or two guys that are like on the cusp of hitting 300. They all hit, they all slug, they all hit for power for the most part. They steal more bases than 90% of college baseball. I mean, that's a juggernaut of an offense. Miami held them to 3 runs today. And Miami held them to 6 runs yesterday. And so you're talking about a team that came in, struggling or with a lot of ups and downs, especially giving up a lot of runs, right? Getting 10-run rule at times, giving up, too many runs from a pitching staff, whether it's the starting rotation or the relievers. To coming in and putting on that performance today, hats off, starting off with Reese Lumpkin, who came in and really did an amazing job for 3 innings, almost 3+ innings.
Let's pause there because I think there's several players on this team that went through a journey this season, and he's certainly one of them. He at one point got replaced as the midweek starter because he couldn't, get outs against like Stetson. To coming and pitching in regionals and supers in the decisive game, pitching well, like what a turnaround for him!
Unbelievable.
Yeah, him. Carson Fisher is another one that at the beginning of the year you wouldn't. Oh my God! Every time he came in,
how many home runs were we giving up? We were giving up home run after home run over home run.
Yeah, and then just around being like the first time the starter throws a ball, put Carson in. I want to watch this. I want to watch Carson pitch instead.
It's wild.
How the journey some kids went up. And I do think it's a shame that, and this is one of the challenges, right? And I forget who said this, but I think it might have, it was Professor Rosenthal. Shout out to him, by the way. I think this is true. It's unfortunate that it was such a shove together that took them a while to get going, get the roles defined, and kind of get the team rolling. Because there were ups and downs, and obviously there was a little bit of a lull at the end of the year where they lost, a lot of games in the last week of the season. But if they had the roles better defined and people were comfortable at the beginning of the year, this game's probably in Coral Gables. And part of that is just the way the team was. They had to overhaul the whole roster, obviously after last year. So. Yeah, they just
you want to say
time. You want to run it back now with the team knowing what you know now. And I think they put a much better record out there.
It's funny you mentioned that, Vish, because look, at that point we were talking about how much of a coaching thing it was, right? This is a coaching thing. Like, you got to have this team prepared. You got to have this team focused. You don't know who your closer is, who your setup guy is, who any of that is. As much of that was coaching, the complete opposite of that was them developing, putting it together, getting it right, and continuing and playing the way that they played in the second half of the season after going 15-15 or less than 500, and then turning it around just as much as that was coaching as well. I'm a big believer. Baseball guys are superstitious guys, so we think, oh, it's the chemistry of the team. To me, it's the other way around. A lot of people say, well, they have chemistry, that's why they're winning. No, it's the other way around. I think you win. If you win and you start developing that winning mentality, that's where the chemistry starts to build and starts to come together. That's my thought process. I don't think it's the other way around. I don't think you can have chemistry without winning, without a winning program. And so you saw the chemistry that a lot of these players had, especially with the coaches finally you buy into what maybe JD and Laz and Rob Cooper and Anderson and all these other guys are talking to you about, right? Or Chris Dominguez, by the way, hell of a job by Chris Dominguez this year as well. And we'll get into the lineup and all that in a second. But you start buying into what these guys are saying, and then you start to hear what these guys are talking about at the end. And whether you like JD Arteaga or not, these kids love that guy. And at the end of the season, all those guys will go to war for him, no matter what, no questions asked. And that's what you want out of a team. That's what you want out of your coaching staff, because you saw the development. You saw them start to develop some of these players. And by the way, even if some players do develop, others don't. Others won't buy in. They just simply won't buy in. And you saw that as well. You saw some of the players that were playing maybe a little bit earlier in the season not get as much time, during the second half of the season. It's for a reason.
But my thing with that is, but I would say this though. I think that team did collectively buy in, because even when it got to like the regionals, when he was calling on some of those guys you mentioned that didn't play a lot, they stepped up and delivered. I mean, we saw Kulikowski. We could talk about the lineups, but he pulled off of who knows where he found Kulikowski, because no one had seen him, and he comes in and delivers huge hits in a super regional. The pitching, he went to Jake Dorn, Jackson Cleveland, and they'd pitched some, especially Jackson had been getting at least like once a weekend getting in, but he was the closer to start the year, so it's a much smaller. He pitched him excellent in the regionals and supers and got in there today and got a big out. I don't know. I feel like the whole team was there was a self-belief there that I think almost the losing helped grow stronger, because it got dark, man. That Stetson game, I can tell you right now, Look, we've been around this program a long time, and our fans are crazy and they're reactionary. I have never seen them after that Stetson game.
By the way,
if you told me after that game when Cuvée did his no-look throw to first and it went into the dugout, to these are things that happen. These are part of the growth, though. Is you make those mistakes and you grow from them. And boy, did that kid grow! And it's hard, freshman All-American, one of the best players in the country, and you saw him grow this year. You saw him grow this weekend.
Yeah. Well, you saw. By the way, didn't we talk about exactly what JD said in his presser a couple of days ago about Cuvée? I kept saying he's pressing too much. He's trying to do too much out there. He's trying to hit, 6-run home runs. He's trying to do too much because the guys around him, quite frankly, weren't doing enough, right? Then you saw him kind of relax, kind of to take a step back and just kind of play within himself, and you saw his numbers start to bump up. You started to see the real Daniel Cuvée, and you started to see the guys around him play a little bit better as well. So I think it all works hand in hand. I think
you saw that today too. Both of his hits were the other way. He singled and doubled the opposite way. He wasn't trying to do too much, and he's impossible to get out when he plays like that. And we just couldn't make that one extra play today.
I do want to talk about the unpopular thing really quick. And this will takes 2 seconds. Is hats off to that Louisville team. That's
not popular at all. I think they're a really good team.
It's a hell of a team. I mean, people don't want to talk about losing to this, losing, or they don't want to talk about the team and how good that other team is. That team was lights out, man. That's a hell of a program over there. Someone mentioned in the chat that I was in earlier that they were better than USM, than Southern Miss. Yeah, possibly. I mean, their pitching staff maybe not. JB Middleton, that kid over at USM is a first rounder. But aside from that, That lineup is just as good as anybody in the ACC, if you
Yeah,
ask me. But I'll tell you this really quick, Bitch. I'll tell you this: if God forbid, if we didn't have a guy like JD Arteaga as our team, go get me Daniel McDonald any day of the week and
oh
26.
man, that
How
guy,
hard
I
is it
love
not
that
to like that guy? Hell of
guy.
a
I love
coach.
that
19 seasons there. Chris Dominguez can vouch for him,
guy.
obviously. Played for him, but what an amazing guy. And
Yeah,
who
no, I
doesn't
mean,
like
even
a guy like
in the
that?
press conferences, you hear him talking, and like, I go play. I mean, I don't have any talents. That's a barrier to entry, but I go play for him. He's a great guy, and they're a really good team. And what we saw today, frankly, was just two really good teams, a really good ACC game with high level baseball, and that's what JD talked about. They're like, they asked him like, were you nervous when it got in later? He's like, I was enjoying a really good game of baseball where like players were executing, and we knew it was going to just come down to a play here or there, and they just made. I mean, it was inches. It was the double play we failed to turn it. They reviewed and confirmed, and it was the ball off of Mikey's glove where he laid out for it. I mean, that's two of their runs. We lost 3-2. But that's baseball. If it was the other way around, they'd be looking at the plays they didn't make. I'm like, man, an inch.
I mean,
I do this every time. Every time the Canes are eliminated, I'm like, that last game.
How many guys we left on base. We didn't do a great job with that, especially with runners in scoring position. I get that. We really did do a great job with that all around. But we can talk about all that. But Louisville did the same thing. A lot of teams do the same thing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Everyone's killing Renzo
like,
for the grounding into the double play when they're and yes, I wish he would have taken more pitches.
Sure,
their pitcher had lost the zone. He probably could have walked him in, but Louisville had bases loaded with one out the previous inning and also didn't score. You can't look at a baseball game and say if we had done this, both teams put in the same position, both teams failed. And you can't go and say, well, if we had done it and they still had not done it, then we would have won. Yeah, that's like a lot of ifs, then, right? I mean, they easily could have hit a single with the bases loaded, one out, and blown the game open too. Like it's just
you gotta understand, like certain situations when things happen, then then that's where you start to make different decisions. It's like it's a butterfly effect, right? Like if that run doesn't score, maybe now you put in a different pitcher and then they light him up. I mean, all those things go hand in hand. So we've got to understand that this is as we keep saying.
In this instance in particular, like the game was such a mirror. Like it was 2 runs, 5 hits for both teams, then 2 runs, 7 hits for both. I was looking at the score sheet after each inning, and it was like a mirror. And then both teams loaded the bases with 1 out and didn't score. And I'm just like, this is like such an even game. Right. And ultimately, Mikey laid out for the ball and almost caught it. And that's the difference. Like it's tough.
It's tough because he usually makes that play and he didn't make it this time.
I mean, I do think if we want to talk about a few things, I thought the positioning on that. I think we neglected to move. Yeah, but we neglected to. So they had a runner on first. He then was either a wild pitch, pass ball, or just they were stealing anyway, and the ball kind of spiked and bounced over.
Yeah. They called it a wild pitch.
Second, yeah, whatever they called it. I don't think it was a wild pitch. Whatever. He moved up to. He was going to steal that base anyway. He had a good jump. Anyway, he's on second. He's on second, right? Right. We didn't then come out of no doubles, which we should have, because now the runner can score on a single. It made sense to be deep when it was runner on first because you want to cut off the alleys and throw back in, so he can only get to third and a hit in the gap.
Right.
And that was the difference between Mikey getting that ball or not. So I think that's probably a slight tactical. We should have come in then, because then you don't really care if it goes over your head. You want to keep it in front of you.
That was a bad call on the red zone.
That wasn't even close.
However, they'll turn it around, and then the Mikey Torres call. He can't go down with the bat on the shoulders either. They're after fighting off all these pitches, and then there's one that gets right down the cock, and he doesn't swing at it. So, look, again, I mean,
you're in that side of a game. It
could have gone either way. It could have gone either way. Game. It was it's tough. It's tough to call. So, I
will say the one thing, the other thing just from today's game that. I mean, look, JD had been mixing and matching players, and it had pretty much worked uniformly. Gabby Gutierrez was a mistake today. And I know he was trying for the righty matchup against the left. He just I don't
I think you stick with the hot bat there, Kulikowski.
Yeah,
Against
who then came in and got a hit and walked in the second at bat, and it's kind of like what could have been. But again, as you said, it's a butterfly effect, and you don't know how the rest of the game goes if
right.
one thing changes in the first inning, that changes everything in the third inning and the fifth inning and all that. So you can't just flatly do that. That was the one move.
Down the line, you're looking for a right-handed bat. You really didn't have one, right? So
yeah, well, they actually did. So they actually, this is interesting, right?
I
don't know if they picked this up on TV, but they actually sent Tavares in the ninth.
Oh yeah, they talked about it. They didn't show it, but they did talk.
And they switched it back to Coolin. I think it was probably because their guy was struggling finding the zone, and Coolin's probably more disciplined. So he was like, just send him up there, and he walked. So, so I think that was probably the thinking there. But they still had Tavares' bat. They still had Bobby Marsh if they needed another lefty to sub in, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot of this. There was a lot of
just get under, man. I thought he had.
There was a lot of that today. Just missed a lot of deep fly balls today that we just missed. Again, that's
and we talked about it, Vish. You talked about the wind is howling. It's blowing out.
Yeah, there were no home runs.
No home runs. Well,
I was walking up to the stadium. My lanyard was twisting in circles because the wind was blowing it so much.
And Max hit one, but that was to right field. That was a no doubter there.
Yeah, no one. Well, I think the pitchers adjusted over the weekend and keep the ball. I'm sure both pitching coaches keep the ball down. That's why you saw some.
We threw the right guy. Reese keeps the ball down, and he's a single ball pitcher. So yeah.
But I also think both coaches emphasize keeping the ball down because that's why there were so many. Their team too, so many flyouts where the hitters were still trying to just get the ball up into it, but they weren't. They were down in the zone, and that's when you pop it up and fly out. So,
yep.
So I think
had a chance at one. Mikey Torres had a chance at one that stayed in somehow. I don't know.
Well, Mikey Torres I don't need him swinging for the fences. Although, what a turnaround for him too. He became a legitimate good. Mikey's up now. He can get a hit for us.
So let's talk about that for a second because moving forward, there's a lot of questions I think on this baseball team as to obviously we've got so many crazy things going on. We're recruiting, the transfer portal. We've got so much going on. Let's talk about first. About the current state of this. Oh, and again, I got to give a shout out to my buddy Nick. Everybody, if you know me by now, if you know the show, if you watch the show by now, Nick Soto is a good friend of mine. So I'm always going to stick by him. But I know what kind of a trainer he is, what kind of a strength coach he is. Guy's one of the best in the business. Just ask Manny Machado, and he'll let you know. And but the truth of the matter is. I think that, you have a good strength program. A lot of people talked about how we don't have a humongous team. Yeah, but we don't recruit humongous guys, right? Some of the big guys like Todd Hudson, you could tell 6'6", 220, 230. He's a big kid. Nick Roberts, another big kid, right? Carson Fisher, 6'5", 230. Maybe Jake Ogden isn't the biggest guy, but Cuvée is 6'3", 230. You got some big. Derek Williams is a stocky kid, right? He might not be super tall, but he's a stocky kid. So, and again, it's not even about how jacked up they look, right? He was able to help some of these guys gain some strength, gain some miles per hour in their fastball. Ask Jackson Cleveland. Thank you, Miss Cleveland. Ask Jackson Cleveland about that. Ask some of these guys that were throwing 89 to 91. They're now throwing 92, 93, 94. I mean, what he did with this program also is helped him to stay in shape, helped him to not tire out, right? A perfect example of that is Griffin Hughes. And we'll talk about him in a second because the kid never threw. He was a two-way player his whole entire career in college. This is the first year that he's been a full-time pitcher, threw 123 pitches, a week and a half ago. So we're talking about a kid that came back and pitched again and had no arm issues, right? How many arm issues did we really see this year on the program? Not many at all. That's a testament to your strength and conditioning program. And people don't understand that, don't kind of put it together if you don't understand what's going on in the weight room. So, hats off to the training program. And I think that he's got a bright future there with the Canes. But moving forward, Vish, this current team has some holes it's going to have to fill next year. Okay, some guys that might be leaving, some guys that might be staying. a lot of people are like, "Oh, let's run it back. Let's run it back." Let's take a step back, folks,
You
and let's
can't run it back.
think
No,
about what
that's
we're
not,
talking about
running
here.
it back was not a thing though.
Well, first of all, running back is not a thing because you got too many guys that are leaving.
Players leave and come, and
Evan
it just
Smith is not going to be on the program. But you got to understand too, your lineup was not a very good lineup. We happened to execute and play some good baseball down the line and get hot a little bit, and that's great and all. But if you want to be a team that's going to be consistent and that's going to be in hosting regionals, playing super regionals, making it to Omaha, you got to have a more well-rounded lineup, right? And the truth is that if you're saying, yeah, well, we got this guy back and we got this guy back, don't be so sure of it because now your boy Fabio Peralta and Mike Torres and some of these other guys. Well, Renzo's going to be he's the Cam McCormick of this team at this point. But
he's
have to fight for their position. They didn't hit 330. They hit 340. They hit under 250.
CCH, did you make it out, man?
Oh, there he is. Oh, there he is.
Trying for the tight connection out. I was like, I'm just leaving tomorrow morning. There was a
some of you that are on here, you know who CCH is. We call him CCH. It's Eric.
My guy Eric. Yeah. We hung out before the van. I went through the family and students. It was like Mark Light Jr. out there, man. It was like all the familiar faces were out there in the crowd. I was like, this is cool. Then I went and saw the press box, but the Miami session applied. Oh, he made the connection. Nice. I was skeptical. He did it.
Oh,
there's
nice.
no straight flight to Miami tonight, so you got to go through Charlotte, and it was tight. Well, for me, because I do the press con, there's no way I was making it, but he was chancing it. He got it, though. Good job.
Look at that.
I checked the last weekend's debacle where he got stuck an extra night in New Orleans. This is good.
Big shout out. We give Eric a hard time because he's
our guy.
But we love him, man. He's great. He keeps up to date. Not a better
family, man. We got to make fun of each other sometimes, but
we got to bust his chops. But he's great. When it comes to recruiting, he definitely knows what's going on in recruiting. I know Miami is gonna have a pretty solid class this year again. But some of you guys mentioned in that chat that I was on, Mondo and Bryce and some of the other guys that I was hearing. There's gonna be shoes to fill. There's gonna be gaps to fill.
Let's go position by position. See if we can figure out like where. So I think first thing the third baseman is coming back, and
that's
whatever the dollar value is will get paid. So Cuvée will be at third base. There's just no. Cuvée will be at third base. So we got one for sure. There's a lot of these positions, like Ogden at short. If he's back, he'll obviously be starting, but he can go pro. There's not,
No, he's just had such a great year. It's hard to see.
Well, this is the thing.
You can get more money in college right now than you can in the pros. So.
You could potentially, but we're gonna talk about Brylan West when we get to the first basement. But so I mean, when you start talking about running it back, like some of these guys have choices to make. Like we can talk about the ones that are eligibility.
Right.
Like Will Smith and Tanner.
But we got some guys that might hit the transfer portal.
Yeah, there's guys that could go pro because they're going to get drafted probably in later rounds, but sometimes they go, sometimes they come back, and then there's also, like you said, some guys are going to hit the portal too, just naturally. So when people want to run it back, it's never the same. It never comes back the same anyway. And
I'll be honest with you, man. And this is not a knock on the guys that we have. I don't want to run it back. Where we need some, we need.
Well, you can't. Well, here's the thing.
A lot of positions and
here's the thing. I don't. The reason I say you can't run it back is, what does running it back without like Hughes and Will Smith look like? It's not running it back. You can't take the heart out of the team like run it back. It doesn't work. So you got to make adjustments. And frankly, to your point, like we got it. This team's character allowed it to get this far, and you start losing guys because you're going to lose guys through the portal. You got to rebuild a different identity.
Right.
And that different identity is going to include new players coming in and doing things that the current players can't. Because as JD talked about, this is a special team on a chemistry-wise, and we saw that. It's why they were able to ride through the ups and downs. Next year, the goal is less downs.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think there's two things could be true. If we could bring the exact same team back with another year of maturation from the freshmen, like, great. We can't do that because we're losing the seniors. So that's
I don't know if I necessarily. I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I don't know if I necessarily want to do that. Want to bring the exact same team back, and some of these guys really struggled at the plate. You need better hitting. You need better guys.
You're assuming that the freshmen don't get better. You're assuming like.
Well, here's the thing.
If you
If
start
you're
looking
asking me about that, I think that you need to bring in guys that are going to be able to compete with these freshmen. Okay. Well, obviously they'll be sophomores next year.
Well, okay. Let's continue going around the time. Let's say Jake comes back. That's your shortstop. We don't have a second baseman.
Right.
CCH says we filled second base, DH, and first base. I know who first base is. I don't know who the other two are. So maybe put it in the chat.
Who's first base?
It's Brylan West.
Brian. Yeah, Brian. Duh. Yeah, bro. Duh. Brylan West.
So first base, he's gonna. Renzo's out of eligibility. Brylan will be sliding into that. He's a big kid. I've seen him play.
This is what I'm talking about. I know Bryce talked about Brylan West. I mean, that's a huge pickup for Miami.
Yeah, he's much more of your prototypical big swinging first baseman.
Versus hits over 300. Right. Cian Copeland or Sean, however you want to pronounce that kid's a stud over in Miami Dade. Big kid, 6'4", 6'3". Drops bombs. I'm not sure what position he'll play, but he could play probably the outfield somewhere.
Milano.
Second base is definitely going to be a big shoes to fill because, if guys like Arreziaga don't leave, which potentially they could hit the portal, even Brandon Degote could hit the portal, right? Even though, are those the guys that you want? Do you want to fill that hole with a treasure?
This is the question, right? Because there's several. Actually, we have a lot of you mentioned Ethan Puig, who's another infielder we have on the.
Yeah, that might hit the portal.
Well, I think all these might hit the portal. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All of them might hit the portal. None of them played really, and they were all high level recruits. So now you're like, well, am I gonna? Especially if you start going to the portal.
The kid from what's his name? The kid from Columbus is gonna get drafted in the first round. So chances are he's not coming. He's not coming.
That's Copeland? Is that Copeland?
No, that's Mantrana, Mangana or something like that. Big kid. He's
has Milano at second base with 10.
He's a shortstop at Columbus. Eric, what's his name? Remind me. The shortstop at Columbus? His name is committed to Miami, but he's like a high round draft pick as well. So it's going to be hard to see him get on campus. He would probably be your He's like an Adrian Santana. He's like an Adrian Santana. The same kind of.
Well, we're looking for at least one infielder, maybe two. The corners, I think we're okay on.
Tavares. He's one of the guys.
He's exactly what you're talking about. He's. Let's see if we get a freshman to sophomore.
Okay.
He's too skinny and can't hit. Well then.
Okay, I guess he won't get drafted.
We have Tim Placenta and maybe Eric Peralta. We should have CCH on the show. You want to come on next week and?
I'm excited about that because half the time we get half our guys drafted. Most of our top.
JD, and let's see how this pays off. JD talked about last year his approach being less focused on raw high-end talent, more focused on character. That's why the locker room was stronger. Now he's got to kind of find more of a balance. But it's tough. It's tough to do. So I think behind the dish, we're probably looking for someone to compete with Tavares. I don't know that Nolan Johnson is he. I don't think he's really.
He might be a transfer portal guy as well.
I think that's what we're looking for, and hopefully Tavares makes that jump we were talking about, and hits 250, 300 next year, and then you're like much happier than we were this year when he's batting in the hundreds, right? So. But there's definitely going to be competition there. Max in left field can go. Based on the way he was talking in the press conference after the game, I don't think he's leaving. He was very much I'm stunned. I can't believe the season's over. And then he started talking. He immediately went reflective, we didn't get off to the start we wanted to this year. And without saying next year will be better.
I don't necessarily disagree with Eric. I think Nolan Johnson's got some potential. He came in and pinch hit. He got a base hit the other day. I know Tavares has the power. I think it's raw. It's nasty. We've seen him. I mean, he has a quick bat. He just swings and misses a lot, and so that's a big deal.
Nolan Johnson evaluation, part of the offseason.
That's what's going to happen. Some of these guys are gonna be evaluated. Some of these guys are going to evaluate themselves in their position. And see what's going to come out. I don't know who they have.
So I do think Max will come back, so he'll start left field again.
Max, absolutely.
Yeah, I think he'll come. He could leave though, but I think he'll come back. Only player I see them keeping is already just because of potential. Yeah. I mean, if he wants to, if he wants.
Think about this before the playoffs started. I think there was 2,000 players in the transfer portal already.
Yeah, no, there's a ton in there. There's more that are going to go in there. There is an expansion in scholarships as part of that deal they just signed.
Right.
So you can keep bigger rosters. So that'll, help some of them find homes now.
Yep.
Yeah,
Look,
for sure. They're going to go play in the summer. Like these guys, some of these guys will get better, and that's why we don't. I think our point. Our
huge.
point. Yeah, our point is we need that, and we need competition at some of these positions, and then, so then Mikey's in center. If we see Mikey from the last 2 weeks, he's starting in center field.
Right. Yeah. Listen, in a 162 game season, Mike Torres might have hit 350. All right. Just
yeah. So I think in his defense is beyond reproach. One of the better defenders we've had in center field. So I would expect, unless again these guys could hit the portal, but if he's back, I think he's starting there. Right field is an open book because
I think Fabio at 6. By the way,
Derek can come back. Derek can come back, but Derek can also DH, and so
Derek can come back. He's got eligibility.
Yes,
I thought he was out. I thought he was done.
I did too, but he's not.
If he's not, if he comes back, he's your starting right fielder.
Well, I think he could also DH him though.
Sure.
So there's a position there somewhere for one more player.
So what about pitching though? Pitching is interesting.
Let's talk a little bit more about the offense real quick. So let's talk about the guys we still have. I don't know what we're looking at. So we have Fabio, we got Kulo. Is that it? That really? Gabby's gone.
De Jesus.
Oh yeah, De Jesus.
Yeah, De Jesus is probably gone also. So Derek has eligibility. Well, if he stays, which I think he will, because you know what? I think if those 6 weeks that he missed with a broken hand, the way he was hitting, he might have gone. He might have gone to the draft because of the way he was hitting. But now this is an opportunity to get healthy again. He could be ridiculous as your DH or your right fielder. You're talking about. I'm excited about that. If Derek, for a guy like Derek and Max come back, if you got some potential power, you've got some.
I think both of them. I think Ogden, they love being in Miami, so I think it's really a question of what are their pro prospects.
Right.
You have leverage. Well, when you still have eligibility, you have leverage. You can get more signing, all that stuff. To get once you're out of eligibility, the pro team kind of has you by the what. So that would be the question with those two. They get drafted high enough to they negotiate.
Who's Greenhouse, Eric? Who's Greenhouse? This guy's throwing names here. I have no idea.
I've stopped looking at that because, like I said,
Eric, we're gonna bring you on. We're gonna have a special show, and you're gonna come on as a recruiting guy.
Yeah, we'll do that next week or something. You can talk through
all recruiting. Deal?
Yeah.
I want to see a thumbs up.
So yeah, I think in terms of the ones that played this year, I think Fabio and Kulo are other options. Didn't play a lot. Kulo really started actually even before. No, Derek Williams is not out of eligibility.
No.
I checked that. And then Jackson's mom just confirmed it. So he's not out of eligibility. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
Jackson got another year of eligibility left, right?
Jackson does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe his mom can. I'm sure she'll know.
No, Jackson has another year of eligibility for sure. That one, I'm
back.
I definitely. But so
Derek
didn't walk out. That's why Derek also didn't walk. That's why they both didn't walk on senior because they have eligibility.
Gotcha. Thanks for letting us know. We weren't sure if he knew or not, but
Jackson definitely does. But I'm curious. I think Kulo and Peralta are potentially portals. Because they'll definitely get picked up if they do.
I think Kulikowski, with the way he played in the tournament, will definitely get picked up if he decides to leave.
Tanner was out there.
It's a good idea for him because where is he going to fit in? He's not going to play center over Mikey Torres. He's not going to play right over Derek Williams unless he has this outstanding summer, right? And he decides to stick around because he's got the pop. He's got all that. He just has to be consistent. He didn't have enough at bats. He just didn't put it together. He put it together for a couple of weeks now, and it looked good, but that's not enough. You got to be able to do that consistently for the whole year. So we'll see.
And then for Kulo,
Tanner's done. Yeah, Tanner Smith is done.
Yeah, no, but for Kulo, it's kind of I don't know. He came on strong at the end of the year, and sometimes those are springboards. Remember, we saw that with. I mean, most of the people on his team don't even know who some of these people are because they turned it over so much, but. Remember, Rafe Schlesinger basically didn't pitch and then came in the regionals and pitched well and then was the Saturday starter the next year and got drafted high. So a lot of this is talking to Renzo's done. Is talking to JD.
Right.
Like, okay, what's my role? What are my opportunities, right? Like, are you going to get three guys in front of me where I'm basically not going to play, or am I competing? Because kids will compete. It's not about the competition that they're afraid of. For example, if you're coming in here thinking you're playing third base next year, you're absolutely not playing third base next year,
Right.
right? So, like, I mean, that's just the reality. Like, you got to be realistic about these things.
That's why Jason Torres left Alabama.
Yeah, no, that is why he's like, oh, this guy's better, and he is better.
Yeah.
I had nightmares in that Alabama game. Jason Torres came up with 4-2 game. I was like, if this guy hits a homer, I am gonna die. He did not. He flew out the center.
Thank God he popped up. Yeah.
But that's the thing. So part of this is also, who are you competing? Do you have an opportunity to even compete? Because a lot of, like, there's certain positions that like if Ogden's there's nothing any shortstop's going to do that's going to make Ogden not be the shortstop.
If I'm a really good outfielder, really good outfielder,
a chance to play in right field.
Then I'm coming here and I'm going to compete because I know there's an opportunity to play both with center and right. I know Mikey brought it on now here in the end of the year and in the tournament, but again, you got to be consistent about it. And if you can be consistent,
I don't think he's locked in there. But if his hitting improves, and as Jackson's mom was saying, over the summer, a lot of these kids are going to get a lot of playing time and
help Max. I know Max was good coming out of Oklahoma State, but he had a great summer, right? And he looked good this season. So did Derek Williams. So
so some of these kids will get better. And kind of elevate to the point where they are kind of more locked in. But yeah, those positions are definitely open right now. You want to talk pitchers? We have not. Yeah, Reese is out of eligibility.
Yes, Reese is out. So pitching is important because there's a lot of question marks. I think.
So Griff is technically not out of eligibility, but I'm pretty sure he's going pro.
Well, I wouldn't be so sure about that, and I'll tell you why.
He walked on senior day.
That's okay. He can walk on.
That's like an indication because they asked him if they want to.
Right, but he's not out of eligibility from what I hear. From what I understand, he's not.
No, he's not. I think he'll go.
I wouldn't be so sure, and I'll tell you why. This was his first season on the mound, on the mound full time, and he did good. He was solid. But was he a true ace? Was he a true number one? Maybe not. You can tell that there's still a lot of growth there from a pitching perspective. Where could he sign professionally and get developed really nice? Yeah. However, his draft prospects, where is he going to land? Right, he struggled now during this during the last his last outing. You can see that there's moments where his mechanics fall apart a little bit. Where he's not necessarily your guy that you look at and you say, this is my ace guy. This is my number one pitcher. He does throw hard, right? He's 93 to 95. He's got a lot of really great things about him that make him a very good pitcher. However, I still think there's some development left there. And if he doesn't get the stock, if he doesn't get the what's the word I'm looking for? If he doesn't get the grade that I don't think he'll get to at the next level, I think he might come back. And if he does come back, that's great, obviously, because now you have another guy in the rotation.
He'll obviously.
I just don't know. I think it's 50-50 more. I don't think it's
50-50. I think he's pretty much every game we go to, there's all the scouts they're scouting him. Like, he's basically, then they just fucking leave because the only other one they want is Cuvée and he's not eligible. So so I don't. Now,
that doesn't mean that this rotation is going to look like what it looked like.
No, but I would be surprised.
I think Friday night guy next year, right?
Well, let's walk through who these things change over time. So we don't know if Griff is coming back. I'm not as optimistic as you are, but I hope he comes. Obviously, we'd welcome him back with open arms, but I still think he's intending to go. But like you said, if he gets drafted in a bad spot, he might look at Miami as a better option. So then you got Siskar, you got Darius. those are your if Griff is back, your weekend rotation is back. Although I don't think he would still throw it.
Yeah,
Nick Roberts' recovery will be big for the back of the bullpen because you lost Waltz.
I think he's your closer next year.
Your
We need
closer,
to that hard.
go. Yeah, I think he's the guy that you want the back of the bullpen. And then let's see, in terms of other returning guys, you got Jackson back. You got Jake Thorne's back too, I think.
Yeah, he could come back, but that doesn't mean he will. But he could. He's a transfer, so
I think Robbie's still got a year left, right?
He's still got a year, and that's a guy I would watch out for. I know some of these guys, Mondo, some of these guys are looking at potentially him being a guy that could jump into the rotation, whether it's a midweek guy or a back end Sunday guy.
Yeah,
he did at Georgia State. He was their number one at Georgia State last year. I could definitely see that. He's just got to get in. He's just got to get his arm in that type of shape. Right now, he's a specialist, or he can throw you an inning or two.
I think it was two things, right? It was he got hurt, so that prevented him from getting a bigger role, and then we didn't really have he and Jake were the only lefties we had, so it ended up being like, okay, we do need a situational lefty. You're going to do that for the rest of the season, but I agree. I think he'll have an expanded role. He won't be a one batter guy next year. I've heard nothing on the severity of Nick's injury, so I'm not gonna.
Well, Nick had Tommy John, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but that's usually not a full that's not like it used to be.
Nowadays, it's not. When I had Tommy John,
it all depends on severity and recovery. So we'll see. That's why I said if he's healthy, he's the back of the bullpen.
Yeah. If not, you need a guy in the back. You need a couple of guys that throw hard, man.
I think Carson's out of eligibility, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So the bullpen is, the pitching staff is where we're taking more hits. Yeah, because obviously Walt's gone.
I think in a field where you feel that is through the transfer portal, like we did this year. I think, and I'll say why. You'll find a freshman or two that can come in and can pitch a little bit. But when it comes to pitching in college, development is key, right? You got to develop. You might have one or two guys that can come in as freshmen and dominate or do really well, but you don't typically see that as much as you think you do, right? You see guys that maybe their sophomore year they start to really figure it out. Teams like Florida, you've seen it with, or Arkansas. Some of these guys that have freshmen, they're monsters. They're guys that they pick up that throw 95, 96 as a freshman. You don't see that a lot like you do, or maybe like that guy Dax, whatever his last name is, from Oregon State. But like he's 6'6", throwing 95, 96 as a freshman. It's hard to find those guys that don't end up going pro as opposed to going to play college ball, even with the NIL. So I think it's important to see what's out there in the transfer portal as well. You've got some big arms, and a lot of people are talking about some of these big arms going to the SEC. Look at what the ACC has done in the tournament this year, right? And look at what Miami has done, and some of these other teams in the ACC. There's no doubt in my mind that if I'm a pitcher and I see I see Cuvée and I see Max and I see Derek and Jake come back, and some of these other guys that I have on this lineup, there's no doubt that I'm going to consider going to pitch for the University of Miami. And with what Laz and JD have done with this pitching staff, considering what they did, a lot of people are talking about, well, we pitch, we didn't even pitch with our actual rotation. No, we actually probably did pitch with our actual rotation. I think at the beginning of the season, the guys that were in the rotation probably were out of position. If you ask me, I think a guy like Nick Roberts and Brian Walters deserve to be in the back end of the bullpen, as opposed to starting guys that just don't know if they're set for, if they're set up for that. Maybe Nick better than Brian Walters, but you see what Brian Walters can do in the back end. But some of the guys that they brought in and they switched out, a guy like Siskar, maybe I can see a guy like Darius coming in and maybe being a midweek guy coming up, because he still needs some development from a maturity standpoint. He's got the goods, throws hard. He can go in there and he can dominate a little bit, but he also has spurts where he really loses it. As opposed to Siskar, who even when he does lose it, he can still dominate. He can still get guys out because he's got that movement. He's got that, that sinker ball mentality where his ball moves so much that he can still be dominant even without having to throw 94, 95 miles an hour. So I think there's an opportunity where you could see one or two new guys in that rotation, even if all the guys come back.
Well, even if all the guys come back, there's a lot of holes, right? Because you've lost
Yeah.
Wald, you've lost Lumpkin, you've lost Giroux, you've lost Carson Fisher. These are arms that you're relying on. Will Smith, like these are your guys. So like the whole bullpen needs a rebuild. If you're going to start the same rotation, which you probably won't, there's going to be some changes.
Obviously,
So
your top guys in the bullpen are going to be Jackson, and Jackson's probably going to be your one of your top, if not your number one guy, unless he gets Look, he's an opportunity. He's a guy that could potentially start or get some spot start. A weekend, a midweek guy.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in Carson Fisher's role next year.
Yeah, I think it's a great role for him.
It's a good role for him, and he actually did that in the postseason. Some when you can't pitch Carson every game, so came in for Carson today, got the out. So yeah, I think there's definitely expanded roles for some of the guys. He and Robbie, I think, will pitch a lot more next year, but that's still not the. I mean, the back half of the bullpen, like there's no Walt. Again, losing Reese and Giroux, those are your other two midweek options. So maybe you move Tate to the midweek, then you still need another weekend start. Like that's assuming Griff comes back. I still don't think he will. I think he'll go, and then you're really so there's a lot of opportunity on this pitching staff, like you said. So
if Griff
it's really important. It's really important to retain AJ and Tate and Siskar and AJ and Tate and Jackson and Robbie and keep that core together because you don't want 15 new pitchers. You really need some.
You need some. Yeah. Well, Lachi, we didn't even talk about Lachi. He needs to take it to the next level. And as much as he needs to take it to the next level, I'm going to go back and I'm going to harp on Jackson. He needs to take his game to the next level too because he's got it, right? He throws 93 to 95, okay? He's got a nice slider / slurve or whatever he throws there. His changeup he probably is going to work on a lot in the summer. But he's got two really solid pitches, and he's got that one pitch that he can work on and now be a 3-pitch guy that can come in and really dominate, 2 or 3 innings, maybe even a little bit more if he needed to. So I think that Jackson can take his.
I do think he got there over the course of the year, and that by the time that happened,
you saw the growth, right? You saw it.
Yeah, but by the time that happened, the roles were kind of defined, and he was just on the edge of it. So that's why he would come in at times, but not consistently. That's why I really think, he's kind of that Carson Fisher role next year. But we need all those guys to come in just have a semblance of continuity because we still need another 4 or 5 guys. So the pitching staff is very much wide open. Like you said,
we got a lot because
these guys can come. These guys come back, but Lachi's definitely one that we're going to look to rely on more next year. But
that's a big kid that throws in the mid-90s, and he needs.
Yeah, we left all of the freshman pitchers pretty much at home this week, other than Tate and
you know what the problem is, Vish, with these freshman pitchers, a guy like Lachi, a guy like Calera, is that he throws hard. He's in the mid-90s, but the problem is he leaves the ball up, and that's why they hit the ball out of the park.
Well, this is the adjustment. Yeah, this is the adjustment from high school to college.
That's the problem Jackson was having early, and then he started to figure it out a little bit. Let the ball up a little bit. 93 to 94 gets hit out of the park easy. We
talked about that.
Well, is he going to come though? That's the problem. Is that kid the number 1 pitcher in the country going to come, or is he going to get drafted? Right, and then we're screwed. So if you bring in a kid that throws 95, 96, well, from your mouth to God's ears, brother, because he's going to come in and he's going to be the guy probably.
Well, like you said, we'll be active in the portal too, and get some guys out of there to plug gaps as well. But that's the adjustment from pitching in high school and college. In high school, if you're mid to high 90s, you can throw it anywhere and you'll get people out. In college, you still got to hit your spot. Otherwise, that just makes it easier for them to hit it over the fence.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it against Alabama. They threw a kid at us that was 97 to 99 miles an hour, basically, or 96 to 98, and we hit him.
A lot of times it's easier to hit those guys because they generate the power for you. Right. If they don't have movement on it and they don't hit their spots, you'd rather make contact with 98 than with 88.
Look, Vish,
Vish,
we saw it today. We saw it this weekend, really, right? Because we talked about this a little bit, before the weekend started, with how the pitching was definitely not Louisville's strong suit, right? They had some decent pitching this weekend. They got through some stuff, especially in game 1 and then game 3 with the Everly pitched really well. But the truth is, pitching wasn't their strong suit, right? but
Well,
they
this
had
is
a
where
lineup that was outstanding,
yeah,
and
but
so
this is where the Friday game hurt
you're
us,
able to
right?
compensate for that. You got
Yeah,
to
but
have a
so
strong lineup.
no, but this is where the Friday game really hurt us because they did not. So Forbes was their number one guy, and he's one of those guys that throws upper 90s. When we didn't force them to really use their actual main arms out of the bullpen in that game, they had two really good bullpen arms,
Right.
and they were able to not throw one of them until Sunday. And so when they got what they could out of Epperly, they went straight to their big gun, and he got them all the way to the ninth inning. And so they were able to compensate because we gave away the Friday game was non-competitive, and that did hurt us. We fought back hard because again, this team has a lot of character, and they weren't going to give up. And when they fell behind 4-1 on Saturday, and everyone was, you should have seen Twitter. They came back and won that game because this team has a lot of character. But that Friday game colored the whole weekend. They didn't use any of their pitchers, and then they had enough. Because you could see actually yesterday, because we were up late, he made a choice when it was, he actually talked about this in the press conference. It was 6-5, and they asked McDonald, McConnell, I think McDonald. They asked him, "Did you think?" Because they asked him, Cuvée comes up. Did you think about going to a righty because he hit the bomb off that lefty to put the game away? And he's like, well, the only one I could have gone to is Schweitzer, which is the guy they used today. And he's like, I wasn't going to do that there. He had that luxury because they had the game in pocket. They were down. He's like, I'm not about to blow this guy here and still lose this game. Right. So he saved him, and then he went to him early today, and he got him 4 innings. And that was where the Friday game hurts. So the Friday game, after they got Forbes could go deeper because the game was out of hand. So they didn't have to worry about, okay, we got a quick pull in because it's a competitive game. And they used some other arms in their bullpen that were not their top arms. And their other top arm was that Danilowitz guy they threw on Saturday. So they were able to use their better bullpen arms. That's where that Friday game really hurt us. We also didn't use our bullpen on Friday. But when we said we had deeper pitching, that was if all 3 of the games were competitive, that's where it really came in, and they weren't. Because we didn't use Giroux this weekend. We didn't have to. Hughes was actually warming. I don't know if they cut to this on TV now. He was warming up in the ninth. He's going to come in, I guess, to close it if we took the lead or to. So he was coming in. He was warming up in the bullpen when we got out in the ninth. So I mean, we were kind of out of pitchers at that point, but we didn't stress their pitching staff on Friday, and they have enough for 2 games. And I think that was kind of the unfortunate thing. Even they were taught because I was looking at all the previews of them. They're like, Louisville's lucky they didn't get into a losers bracket in the regional because they don't have the pitching for it. They had a few really good arms, and they were able to use them in the key spots. And
it's all about timing. It's all about some luck as well. And
we never threw tape.
If you can hit, and that team can hit. These are things that you can do, right? Like up and down that lineup. They're number 9. They're 9-hole guy. Alessea, the shortstop, is typically their leadoff guy, but he got hurt and he hit at the end, and he's a 310 hitter, a 320 hitter, in the bottom half of your lineup. So even their young guns, Kamau Neighbors, kid that hits towards the end of the lineup, solid hitter. Tag Davis, freshman, leads them in home runs. I think he hit 6th or 7th on that team. So that tells you about that team with Zion and Monroe, who had, probably the best couple of games of his life. But it's a good program. It's a good hitting team, and if you can get a lineup like that with some solid pitching, I think you can go a long way. I think that's why, if Louisville gets a good matchup, whether it's Oregon State or FSU, I don't know who won that game finally. But whoever they match up against, I think it's going to be a good matchup because they've got a solid little team that can hit. And as long as you can hit in college baseball, you're in it, man. So that's what I think Miami needs to really kind of hone in on and get ready for in 2026 is develop some more bats, get the right pitching in there, and I think you're going to be good. So I think Miami's got a really good opportunity to be a host in 2026 and and even better. I think they can be one of the top programs in college baseball once again. But look, man, being a top 16 program is no joke. Especially with what they did, right? What they went through this whole entire season. Again, a hats off to that Canes baseball program, pushing through, man, going through some really tough times. Where we all thought we were all down and out. We said this season's kind of done. It's a wash, and all of a sudden, them putting it together again and going through that streak and doing what they did was impressive. It showed a lot of character, a lot of maturity, a lot of heart. All the cliche words, all those quirky words that you want to use, throw them in there because they deserve it. It was a fun team to watch. It's a great group of kids, man. We got a chance to really bond with some of them, and I love those kids. And I hope that whether they stay here, they move on to professional baseball, or they move on to the real world. Whatever they do, I think they're going to be great kids. They're going to be great at it. They're going to be successful, and they're going to be all right, man. So, a hats off to them.
Yeah, and the season was a test. I mean, it's hard to remember all the way back to the end of the season. Came out rolling. Remember, we went into that Connecticut series. I think we had one loss, and they were like 10-1 or something.
What is that? We were like 8-1. Yes, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And then just lost that series out with the Connecticut. Like, what is going? And then the bottom fell out for a while there, and these kids stuck with. Like I said, it's a test of character. Yep. I mean, that's life, right? Not everything goes your way, and it's how you deal with that adversity that shows your character. And these kids did that, and so yeah, they're going to be missed. And even the ones that come back, it's not going to be the same team, right? So like this team, it has its own identity, and they left it all out there, and it's one of those things. Ogden's going to be thinking about that at bat for the rest of his life because he just missed it. He just got under it a little bit.
He knows.
Or it's 5-3. So he's going to be thinking about that for a long time. But that's the sport. And so this team. Hard to say what its legacy is at this point. It's the first Supers in a long time, which for this program is astonishing. But they're not burdened by the failures of the past teams. It's not their fault. And so this is a major accomplishment for a program that had not been here in a long time and that expects to be here. As Danny said, the expectation is to be hosting regionals and supers and not have me in Hattiesburg next year. So
we have to go out somewhere for a regional. Make it like Raleigh, North Carolina, or make it like
where do you think these schools are located, dude?
Atlanta, Georgia, or something. You know what I mean? Like
we can't play those schools. They're in our conference.
Oh, yeah,
We're gonna get sent to SEC towns, and unless it's Nashville or Austin, you're in some trouble.
Yeah, because even Baton Rouge is kind of a pain in the ass, right? Like
it's also fly. Not New Orleans again. Anyway, but yeah, no. For this team though,
always stay home.
They were fun to watch. They were fun to be around. They were a joy to cover. Great group of guys, great group of people around them as well, and. Yeah, it's sad to see it end, but we'll reflect on this down the road and be happy that we experienced it. So
you know what I'm gonna do, Fish? I got an idea. Some of these kids that maybe that graduate, but maybe they're not gonna play at the next level or whatnot. I'm gonna start playing Sunday ball again in my men's league, and I'm gonna pick some of them up so I have some ringers on my team. So if by any chance any of them are watching this. Or not. I mean, I talk to them every once in a while. I'm going to reach out to them and be like, hey, you want to come pitch a few innings? You want to come hit cleanup for me for my team? That's what I'm going to do. As my
slider at your freaking men's league.
On my men's team on Sundays, all right? So if any of you out there if any of you out there want to see, Miss Cleveland.
Don't encourage him. Don't encourage this behavior. This isn't right.
Always got to get the ringers, man. Always got to get.
You know what?
Remember Michael Rudman? You remember Mike Rudman, right? He was my starting pitcher on my men's team, and we dominated that league.
You think?
Shout out to Mike Rudman, baby.
That's too much character. Will Smith will not participate in your.
I'm getting Will. Will's the number one. My first call up. Jackson still has eligibility, so I don't know.
Yeah, you can't use that.
I'm gonna get Will if he's done with his eligibility. Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. I'm
Might as
gonna be
well get Walt out there throwing 98 past these guys. Like,
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna DH. I'm just gonna DH. That's all I'm gonna do. Oh man. CCH, where is he? Eric, answer with thumbs up. Are we doing a recruiting show next week or what? Recruiting show, yes or no? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Hope it's not thumbs down. But
yeah, well, he's in flight, so he might have
oh
spotty
yeah, he is in flight. You're right. You're right.
coverage. But we'll connect with him. We'll get him on here, talk through some of the recruits and all.
We will.
We'll
get it going. But again,
it's over, man.
It's tough, man. It's tough. But as we mentioned, we love this. John, now you show up. You're late, man. Where have we been all this time? John,
how are you not hanging around showing up for our unscheduled show? Like, come on, man.
Not over you. Get it together, man. Thanks everybody for showing up. Thanks everybody for
the whole season. Yeah. Thanks for the whole season. Yeah.
It's been a wild ride. We're not done yet. We got a couple more shows before we sign off for a little bit, not too long, just a little bit, because we will have this little thing called football that's going to start to gear up in the next month or two.
And hoops, and next thing you know, baseball's back.
And then baseball's back. But we appreciate everything. We appreciate this team. We love this team. And hell of a job for real. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, great job. Just all proud. So
2026 can't get here soon enough, and we're excited about it. We can't wait. So everybody, again, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. And John, don't start asking questions, okay, about all the stuff that we spoke about an hour ago. All right, get it together. Jeez Louise.
I don't think I ever talked about this. It was loud.
It was loud.
So difference between Southern Miss and Louisville, they were both really loud. They both have glass in front. Louisville opened, so they opened it up. So I got it right in the face. Southern Miss, like, it doesn't open, so it was muted. When you walked out of the press box, you could hear how it was super loud, and they're stomping on the ground. But in the press box, it didn't really carry into there. This thing, they opened it up, and got it right in the face.
That's cool, man.
It was loud, and they were. Good God, there were some incidents in Heinsberg that we were not going to recount on the show, and I got some backstories on some stuff that went down, and I'm just going to leave them.
I mean, I don't know how different Louisville is from Hattiesburg. Whatever. Okay. All right.
Yeah, CCH didn't get sick in Louisville like he did in Heinsberg. Yeah, no, the Louisville. I will say, everyone I encountered in both places was great. Like, there was I had no issues, and definitely, like, the staff of both schools were excellent. Great to work with, accommodating, made our stuff easy to do. So
yeah, I said it on Twitter. James Nabel for Canes, hell of a job as well, putting everything together for us all the time.
And, he's awesome.
He's great. So shout out to the Canes
guys. Yeah, he's awesome. Very, very good at communicating. Patrick, it's not very good at communicating, turning shit around. You ask for anything, he's right on top of it. He's awesome. Great to work with, yeah.
So we're looking forward to. We'll trust me. We will talk about baseball. Baseball is life, as always. And I'm going to get a couple of ringers to play on my men's team soon. So this is not going to go away anytime soon.
So I have a thought.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying, Vish.
Hold on. I have a thought though. My brother-in-law is a big dude named Dominguez. We put his name in there, but get Chris Dominguez to bat instead.
Exactly.
And that's how you cheat correctly in basket.
Perfect. And Chris will come and drop some bombs. All right.
They're both big dudes. Like, what's gonna know the difference?
Yeah, right. They're both about 6'4", 6'5", whatever. Yeah. Actually, I think Dominguez is a big. Anyways,
he's bigger than.
Yeah, it might be a little bit bigger.
You could interchange them. Just sign my brother-in-law off, and then there's a Dominguez batting. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's gonna be fun. Oh man, thank you again, everybody, for
everyone. Congratulations to the team again. Thanks for everything this year. It was awesome covering y'all, and sad it's over, but glad we went on the journey with you. And thank you
thank you for all the love and following us, and for following Vish, who did an absolutely outstanding job covering the team throughout the playoffs, throughout the postseason. So we appreciate you guys, and hopefully next year we'll go to a regional or we'll be in a regional and a super where we both can be at the same time, which is in Miami.
Yeah, let's do it in Miami. My wallet would appreciate that as well.
That too.
I haven't even looked at the bills yet, but this is not funny. But yeah, the Louisville was much nicer. It was one flight. It was just, anyway. But also just a bit of a tangent, but like you gotta do some of the ACC tournament format. Like I would love to go, but I'm not going if we can. Like we would have been done by noon on the first day.
Oh my god, that's for another show. Anyways, we'll see you guys
right.
soon again. Be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, we'll do a recruiting show. And walk through.
Take it easy, everybody. And go Canes.
Go Canes.